Thing. As we normally do, time for a brief disclaimer. Before we start tonight's program, this is a reminder that this episode will address various topics related to overeating and obesity, mental health, and a reminder about multiple sclerosis. These may be sensitive to some of our viewers. Viewer discretion, as always, is advised. We remind you to please consult your doctor, your mental health professional, your outreach group, your sponsor, or specialist before adopting any change to your dietary, physical, and/or mental health regime. If you're looking for options with respect to mental health, contact SAMHSA, the Substance Abuse and Mental Health Services Administration, at 1-800-662-HELP. That's 1-800-662-4357. The service is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And it's a confidential free information service for individuals and family members facing such stressors. Importantly, if you're facing suicidal crisis or emotional distress and need to be put in touch with a crisis center, call the Suicide Prevention Lifeline at 1-800-273-TALK. It's 1-800-273-8255. Or go to suicidepreventionlifeline.org. You can also text the word HOME to 741-741. Those resources are also available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, 365 days a year. And then a quick note about something that has been paramount in my mind and heart over the last 13 months and, quite frankly, the last 11 years. The National MS Society is a collective of passionate individuals who want to do something about MS now, to move together towards a world free of multiple sclerosis. Multiple sclerosis is comprised of unpredictable and often disabling flare-ups of the central nervous system. Such flare-ups disrupt the flow of information within the brain and between the brain and the body. The National MS Society is the largest private funder of MS researchers in the world, investing more than $1 billion to date. MS stops people from moving, but the National MS Society exists to make sure that MS doesn't. To contact the National MS Society, please call 1-800-344-4867. Again, 1-800-344-4867. Or go to their website at nationalmssociety.org. And then some additional information as I started to talk to last week. And I hope I get the real thing up here. Maybe I do, maybe I don't. Is this the one? No, it's not. No, that's not it either. I'll just talk to it. Also, as I did last year, I will be taking part in the Walk MS 2022 in Media, Pennsylvania on April 23rd. We are raising money for this and the National MS Society through A Venture to a Cure's fundraising page at rebrand.ly/A Venture to a Cure. Once again, rebrand.ly/A Venture to a Cure. Thank you for those who have donated money to this amazing organization, or those that have even gone to the National MS Society to learn more about multiple sclerosis and demyelination. It touches me and over the 1 million people in this country who have multiple sclerosis in so many ways, and we appreciate all of you. And on that, let's begin. I stood in this doorway back in October of 2020, ready to tell my story. The major component of this story has been my weight loss journey. Last Wednesday, I reached a milestone. I had been on this diet for 3 years, losing 314 pounds. Tonight, we're going to talk about that diet, but what the go forward is now, and how important the go forward is, as maintenance is the most paramount thing in losing this weight and keeping it off. This is the Venture Forward. good evening, or good morning, or good afternoon, wherever you may be, and welcome to the Venture Forward. I am John Venturini, a recovering addict of obesity, overeating, alcoholism, and compulsive gambling, and it is an honor and pleasure to see all of you tonight on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. I found a graphic. I'll bring the graphic up for a second. This is what I wanted to show before. There it is. And I had a wonderful background and everything, but there it is. It's the Walk MS Media 2022, which, let me get the website back up for that real quickly. It's you can donate money to the National MS Society for the Walk MS Media 2022 at rebrand.ly/a venture to a cure. Once again, rebrand.ly/a venture to a cure. See, got the graphic up and everything. This is great. If it happened before the countdown, this would be a different story. But I guess, as we say, I will fix that in post, right? Let's go back to Maine. It has been a story and a half, hasn't it? To be on this diet for 3 years, to lose 314 pounds, and to do what was basically at the time, and we'll talk more about that on Thursday night, what seemed to be impossible, but to actually, for it to become possible, and to put one foot in front of the other, one step at a time, this has made all the difference in the world, and it has prolonged my life, for sure. So, last Wednesday was the 3-year point, and for that, I now have a 1-year chip, a 2-year chip, and a 3-year chip. In fact, do I have it in my pocket? No, I do. So, I keep all my chips in my pocket, which makes TSA look at me really like, well, you carry all those chips? Yeah, I do. I carry my sobriety chips, I carry my Gamblers Anonymous chip, and I carry the 3 chips for this diet. So I have 6 chips in my pocket right now. And there will be another chip soon for the sobriety, and there will be another chip soon for the gambling. The gambling in April, and the sobriety 3 years in May. But anywho, I digress. I want to say hello to all of you on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitch. Who wins the door prize tonight? That would be Jaden over on YouTube, who says hello. Hello to you, Jaden. Hope you're doing well. We also have Jamie on YouTube as well, who says evening all. Evening to you, evening to you, Jamie. Hope you're having a great evening. We also have Marilyn on YouTube, who says good evening, everyone, with 3 waves and 3 purple hearts. So 3 blue hearts and 3 waves right back at you. We have this very interesting, on Facebook, we have this Donna Venturini who says, hello, John. That would be my mom. Hi, Mom. How are you tonight? Hope you're doing well. And then also on Facebook, we have Bernadette Carbone-Arslanian, who says, hello, John. And that would be my aunt. So it's a family affair tonight. We have both my mom and my aunt on tonight. And I love the fact that you're both on, and I appreciate it big time. I love both of you. Jamie says hello to Marilyn and Jaden. Marilyn says, so proud of you, JV. Such an inspiration to everyone. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm at a point right now where I'm really committed to keeping this to stick. And we're going to talk about some of the fear factor in that as well in about 30 seconds when we go over the show rundown for tonight. And my mom following up saying, love you. I love you too, Mom. And my aunt saying, I am so proud of you. Thank you. I love you. Okay. So let's talk about the rundown for this evening. In the sense that we're going to talk about the 3 years of weight loss. We're going to talk about the journey, exactly what was involved in this. What were some of the dynamics? We'll talk about BMR again, basal metabolism rate. We'll talk about TDEE, total daily energy expenditure, all of that stuff. We'll talk about calories in versus calories out, but understanding that that does not make the full program. There is a lot more than that. We have to be conscious about our activity. We have to be conscious about what goes on up here. We will talk about that at some length this evening. We'll talk about activity. We'll talk about the mind's work. All in the same conversation, but I kind of just separate it in this list. The maintenance strategy, we'll talk about that as well. It is requiring a lot more physical activity, a lot more walk runs, more working out, more other physical activity. So we're going to talk about exactly how that has transcended I would say since the beginning of the middle of last year to now, and definitely some grandiose plans for 22. We talked about that a bit 3 months ago. It's been revised a little bit, but with some exciting news therein, some of which I have shared up to now, and we'll remind you of that. And then we're going to talk about 2 journals tonight. We're going to talk about Food for Thought, which is basically one of the side guides for Overeaters Anonymous. An incredible set of journal entries. So we'll talk about that first. And we'll do as we have been doing lately. We'll go to the language of letting go, both of which are entries from tomorrow, February 23rd. And then we're going to preview what is on the next venture forward. So that is the rundown. Let's go back to Maine for a second and talk about this story. Now, obesity and being overweight has been something that has been a part of my life for a very long time. As a kid, as a young adult, growing up, all of that. It has been very much front and center. It has been something that I would have it lost for a little bit of time, and then for one reason or another, it would creep back in. Funny enough, as it does to many people, not only in this country, but around the world. Being overweight, being obese, is an ongoing battle, especially when you have a sort of metabolism that is not the fastest metabolism. You have the sort of energy expenditure that is not the greatest. Plus other things, it talks about food sensitivities, that sort of deal. We always have to be on top of our health, whether it is our physical health, seeing our primary care physician, or our mental health, going to see our therapist and whatnot. The 2 work hand in hand. We'll preview that a bit tonight, but that becomes definitely part of the story as we talk about what happened what happened 3 years ago, which will be the cornerstone of the story Thursday night. So the thing I would say is this. It's been a diet that has taken 3 years, and it is an ongoing process. It is a process that will continue, for sure. But to really take a look at what has transpired is sometimes, just thinking about it just mesmerizes me too. I sit here in awe, but then I realize that I did the work. I did it one step at a time, one day at a time, one foot in front of the other. And that's what it takes. It's funny. We use that adage, that sort of creed in our other addictions, whether it is alcoholism or drugs or whatnot. One day at a time, one step at a time, one foot in front of the other. The same is true with the battle for our physical health as well. This is the board. This is the board that's over there, right? 314 pounds down. Been on this diet for 1,102 days. Tomorrow, I will be sober for 1,000 days. And as I mentioned before, I will get my 3-year chip in late May. So there's that. The not gambling, April 12th would be 2 years of not gambling. I keep track of this every single day. People are saying, well, why are you tracking the days? After a certain point, you don't need to track the days. You track the things that mean something to you. I have always been a numbers guy. I am always something that's going to equate to something that I could put numbers around. There is nothing more fundamental, to me at least, is the amount of pounds I've lost, the amount of body fat I've lost, or body fat percentage I have now, the days on the diet, the days sober, the days not gambling. I will say this real quick, and we're not going to talk about this at great length tonight, but there was a very dear friend of mine who ended up being somewhat of a sponsor to me, who kept on asking me, how many days, how many days, how many days? She was referring to my sobriety. And I think about it, and I think about how the sobriety and my weight loss run hand in hand, and the fact that she was always asking me every time I saw her, whether online or whatever, how many days, how many days, how many days? More the reason for me to keep track of it. More the reason for me to remember that. More the reason to use that as a rally cry. Some comments. Jamie says, you've put in an amazing and inspiring amount of work. Thank you, Jamie. It has not been easy, but each day we get past it, each day we move forward, becomes a day easier because we know exactly what the mechanics are for us to live the most healthiest life we can. Thank you. And Jamie goes on to say, woo-hoo, with 7 O's at the end and 3 O's in the beginning. So woo-hoo. Thank you, Jamie. I appreciate that, and I appreciate you. Thank you. So going back to that board, right? So we have this board. We have this thing I keep on tracking each and every day. The amount of pounds I've lost, the amount of days I've been dieting, the amount of days sober, the amount of days I've not been gambling. Below that I don't usually show on this camera, but I have a countdown for the amount of payments I've made in the bankruptcy, 11. How many payments that are left, 49. I keep track of all this because these are the things I carry. These are the things that I remind myself. This is what I march towards. Let's talk about a diet that has taken many forms. And we showed this graphic 3 months ago, but it's worth going back to again. In February 2019, when I had that nervous breakdown, that we'll talk at great length on Thursday night, I was 480 pounds. I realized that I needed to do something about this because I couldn't walk more than 5 or 10 feet without needing to sit down. And this is from a guy who travels a lot for his job, but a guy who goes on vacations once a year or whatnot. And to barely be able to walk around and need to sit down every 5-10 feet, I wasn't going to live much longer. That's the God's honest truth. So something had to happen. It required me dissecting and figuring out exactly what was causing this. Was it my environment? Was it the things I was doing? What was it the things that I kind of just used food as a sort of an emergency crutch to not handle other things that needed to be handled? Yeah, all of that. It required me going to my mind first and foremost, journaling exactly what's going on, being true with what was bothering me, instead of closet eating in the middle of a fast food line, instead of eating the 5th or 6th meal in a given day. And a lot of people ask you, hey, well, you must have loved your sweets. No, I loved everything. I ate a lot of everything. You can put that as a quote. May of 2019, I'm on this diet. I'm starting to lose this weight, but I was still drinking. And in the end of May of 2019, I realized that alcohol was a major problem. I had what we talked about before on the show, as my low when it came to alcohol. I drank way too much in a Mexican restaurant, came home, drank more out in the deck. It was a night with way too much overconsumption of alcohol. That was the last night I drank. That was May 30th of 2019. At the time, I was 437 pounds. So you notice from February 2019 to May of 2019, the weight wasn't coming off as quickly as, rounds 1 and 2 back in 2001 and certainly 2 in 2010. It was coming off slowly, but I was not doing what was healthy for me. And if I was drinking like that, and truth be told, before that bottom, I was drinking about 8 out of the 10 days prior to that. I was not abstaining by any stretch of the imagination. So much to the point where I had that night, and I had that horrible reversal of fortune. I clean this up for this audience and whatnot. But then I had just marks on my face for the next 5 days, and I had a headache that wouldn't go away for the next 5 to 7. I can't live that way, and nor can I look to lose 437 or the balance of 437 pounds in that. At 437, I was looking to lose another 200, 230, maybe get below the 2s, but that was a stretch goal. Where I am now at 166, that is a stretch goal and then some. But there I was. We go to July of 2019, and I needed to put some boundaries up. I needed to put some guardrails up. Getting the guidelines on the macros and realizing that calories by themselves are not the only story here. And that's when the mental health really started. I found a therapist who was very much my guru for internal family systems. And she got me on the tracks to be healthier mentally. We go to April of 2020, in the heart of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour, or the beginning of the Backstreet Boys reunion tour. And I started having a little more physical activity, walking and doing squats and push-ups. But it wasn't until 1 year later where I started going to a gym and training. And between April of 2021 and now 10 months later, I'm down to, and this graphic is a bit old, the body fat is down to about 12%. I'm training for road races, and I'm the skinniest I've been since 7th grade at 166. It has been a diet that has taken a wealth of many different forms, but these forms are very much important. What's more important than that is keeping it off and getting even more healthy physically and more healthy mentally. I'll go back to Maine for a second. I heard a comment real quickly. Oh, Sarah's here. Sarah's joining us over on YouTube, who says, congrats again, JV. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. So that's the diet in its forms. Let's do some food for thought. Now, normally we talk about language of letting go on the program. Tonight, we're going to quote from the Daily Meditations for Overeaters in a book called Food for Thought, written by an anonymous member named Elizabeth L. It is basically something that is talked about in Overeaters Anonymous and is published, much as Language of Letting Go, by Hazelden. Food for Thought for February 23rd talks about dependency. And before we continue, when we talk about God, we talk about greatest orderly direction. Sometimes these passages could be a bit theological in nature, but when I refer to the word God and I refer to God, I'm referring to greatest orderly direction and a sort of connection with the universe. So that said, here's today's food for thought. In the past, we used excess food as a crutch, and we developed a false dependency on it. We turned to unnecessary food to calm us down, to cheer us up, and to avoid facing our problems. As a cure-all, food let us down. Rather than solving our problems, overeating multiplied them. As human beings, there are many times when we are weak and dependent. If we say we can go it alone, we are whistling in the dark and deluding ourselves. We need to rely on a power greater than ourselves, but food is not that power. What we need to find is the power strong enough to sustain our dependency. Accepting the fact that we are dependent, that we cannot manage our lives by ourselves, this is the beginning of recovery. We need to be humble, open, and willing to be led by those who have replaced their false dependency on food with a healthy dependency on God. Lord, may I not be too proud. Lord, may I not be too proud to be dependent on you. And that's today's food for thought. Before we go to the next piece of this, looking at that, I realized that sort of dark place was the lines of a drive-thru. Those sort of dark places were places where I was just looking to overeat and overeat and overeat, because that was the only sort of, I guess, biochemical fix, that sort of nutritional fix, exceedingly nutritional fix, that just made me feel satiated but oversatiated, and that sort of disconnect between my mind and my body was paramount. I'm using that word a lot lately, paramount. Jamie over on YouTube says, do you just Google food for thought to get those daily? Yes, and there is a place, Hazelden has a website that has not only food for thought, but has language of letting go and 5 other books every day up on that site. And I'll share that site in the comments within the YouTube and on Facebook post this show. When we think about the diet components, we've talked about this before, but it goes back to 3 key elements. Something that we refer to as the main 3. The 3 main bodily processes that burn calories. You have your basic metabolism. Your body uses most of these calories from food to sustain basic functions, such as your heartbeat, just as your neurological function, all of that. This is commonly referred to as BMR, basal metabolism rate. We talked about this many times on the show before. Digestion. 10 to 15% of the calories you eat is used to power digestion. This is talked to as the thermic effect of food, TEF, and it varies based on the kind of food you eat. Certainly, there are some foods that cause a faster burn than others. And then lastly, and the thing that has been very paramount to this journey in the last year and change, is physical activity. The leftover calories you get from your diet are meant to fuel your physical activity, including workouts and everyday tasks like walking, reading, and washing dishes. This brings your overall total daily energy expenditure, TDEE. We've referred to the TDEE before, but basically it's more than your BMR. You multiply it by a factor, and that factor is based on how dependent or how physically active you are. Obviously, the more physically active you are in most cases, the higher the multiplier that you're going to multiply the BMR for. If you're working out every day and working more than 10,000 steps and working out for an hour and a half, 2 hours a day, you can multiply that number by as much as 1.9, which is something that I do through Lose It, which we'll talk about Lose It yet again in a few minutes. Go back to main for a second. We have Sky Lover joining us on YouTube. It says, hey, y'all. Hey, Sky. Hope you're doing well. And it's funny enough, I forgot the next slide actually talks to Lose It. Lose It has been an application that I've been using since the beginning. It's been 3 years of Lose It, but with Lose It, I can put what I eat within the application. I also put in my physical activity. It also reads things from my watch and adds that to my physical log, or my daily log rather. So it takes the calories in, the calories out, and it keeps a running tab of all of that. When I started the diet back in 19 and in 20, it was a sort of situation where I was a lot more stringent on my caloric intake because, let's face it, I wasn't physically active back in 19. I didn't step up the physical activity until a bit of 20, but a lot more in 21 and certainly now. But if you think about it, that should be part and parcel. It's very hard to demand a 480-pound guy or 480-pound woman or 480-pound whatever to go out and work out for 5 hours. That would never happen. The energy has to be there in order for them to work out. And to certainly think that 2 hours or 3 hours is not going to work for someone who is a class 4 morbidly obese person like I was. Just doesn't happen. But you work everything piecemeal. I'm going to go to main for a second on this. Everybody's trying to find that home run ball and trying to do everything at once. And the fact of the matter is, you can't. You can work at these things piecemeal, figure out exactly what is causing this, and then start working at it little by little. I will always say, though, the first thing that comes to me is my mind. First thing that comes to me is the fact that there are reasons why my mind and my brain is telling me to overeat. Why I feel that is a comfort I need to have. So I had to address that. And it took a while. But I'm at a point now where I feel like it's been a lot more addressed than it has ever been. And is there work that still needs to happen? Absolutely. It's an ongoing process. I could be running all the marathons in the world. It'd still be an ongoing process just because of how long I've had a problem with overeating and obesity. We have Sammy joining us on YouTube who says, hey, JV. Hey, Sammy. How are you? Hope you're doing well. So as far as a dietary tool set, two kinds of formulas we talk about. We talk about the Harris-Benedict equation. We talk about Mifflin-St. Jean. With respect to Lose It, they use Mifflin-St. Jean. Mifflin-St. Jean, I think, is a common or a more updated sort of methodology for caloric analysis, but Harris-Benedict works just the same. And then I go on to say about the 500 calories. Now, 500 calories is not an exact science. It is plus or minus a small delta, but usually if you take away 500 calories per day, you're looking at a pound of weight loss. You take away 1,000 calories, you're 2 pounds, so on and so forth. And moreover, if you're looking to gain weight, so if you're looking to gain muscle and you're putting in a high protein diet to do so, you'll be starting to add numbers onto that instead of taking the 500 to 1,000 away. You're adding it on. At this point in time, I'm looking to, at 166, I definitely need to gain a little bit of weight, and I'm looking to do that in the gym, but also calorically as well. And then here I talk about, again, Lose It is the application I use. But there are other great sites like MyFitnessPal, Fat Secret, Chronometer, and then I'm always one that will never poo-poo against WW as well, and other major weight loss plans. My point is track what you're eating. That's the best thing you could do. Even on a day where you're having, as my friend down in Westchester would say, a food Sabbath day, track what you're eating. It's honesty. You're being honest with yourself. No one else is going to look at this. But be honest with yourself. That is the most important thing you could do. And it's also worth me mentioning that the Venture Forward is not sponsored by Lose It, but I certainly am a big believer in Lose It. Some comments real quick here. Sarah says she has a dear friend who's been morbidly obese for a long time. It's hard to witness, and I know there's nothing you can do. Yes, for the most part, there is nothing we can do. The one thing we hope for is that somewhere down the road there is an epiphany, or the light bulb goes off, or they hit the low they need to hit for them to realize, okay, I got to do something about this. But it's certainly not on us to say, okay, go ahead and do it. True story. When I lost the weight back in 2001 for the first time, so September of 2001, we all remember September 2001 and the horrific things that happened in this country then. I was going to work at a defense contractor in southwestern Connecticut. And I made a lot of decent friends over there who always wanted to go out for food or for a drink or whatnot. And there was this one gentleman who I would go to IHOP with, like almost like every other week. It didn't help that he lived about 5 minutes away from me. But there was a strategy. Every Sunday morning, my friend and I would go to IHOP. And one of the times we go to IHOP, and of course I was ordering food like a madman. I would order Harvest and Grain pancakes. I'd order a chicken fajita omelet, and it had 3,500, 4,000 calories, right? He said, I heard that there's a Bally's Total Fitness right up the road that is having a special right now. I'm a member. Would you like to go with me? And the first time he said that to me, it's like, in one ear out the other. Working out. But then about a week or two later, while we were at work, he stops over my desk and says, look, I have a coupon for you. You can go and you can go work out. And there was a time in my life where I would be offended by that, but I looked at that as like, oh my God, he's concerned about me. So I took that coupon and I went to Bally's Total Fitness and I started working out, especially given what happened in September and October. About a month prior to that rather, I was on vacation with another colleague, and even walking around, I believe it was up in Toronto, walking around, I remember how physically unfit I felt. So that didn't help things one iota. But then realizing that there are things I need to do, and realizing that caloric reduction was really important, and then going to the gym, that's how everything came together. The point I'm trying to make, Sarah, is this. You don't have to be explicit about it. You hope that they have that epiphany moment. You hope that they have that low. But the best thing you can do is give them your heart and your mind. And Sarah, knowing you, you definitely do that. So I will keep your friend in my thoughts. But the best thing we could do is give them our hearts and our minds. Jamie says, yeah, Sarah, I know someone like that, and it's sad for sure. It's very sad. It's extremely sad. It's scary. And I'll say this as well. When you used to be that morbidly obese and, 480 pounds, it's worse because you know exactly what they're going through. But I'm not going to be the one that's going to push that. I'm going to be one that talks about my journey. I'm going to talk about my journey as far as the diet. I'm going to be one that talks about my journey as far as sobriety, as far as not gambling anymore. All of what we've talked about on the show since October of 2020. But I'm not going to push anyone in any sort of direction, especially if that sort of connection did not happen yet. I will give them my mind. I will give them my heart. And they'll have my thoughts, for sure. Easy over on YouTube. Hey, how you doing, by the way, Easy? Easy says, it's called a malady of the mind. Eat this and diet tomorrow, and you do this on a daily basis, and we become fat and lazy and training my dog to fetch for my food. Yeah, it's a malady of the mind. But you nailed it, Easy. It's the mind. You have to fix the mind first. When your mind's not thinking the right way, nothing good can happen. You can make this sort of argument in the back of your mind saying, hey, well, what is my friend doing? Or what is my colleague doing? Or what is whoever? Do they eat 7,000 calories a day? No. They can make that sort of connection and say, okay, well, that tells me that maybe I should step it down a bit. But Easy, at the end of the day, you nailed it when you said that word. Mind. It's the mind. You fix the mind first. Sarah says, I wish she'd follow your YouTube channel. Well, my channel's here. YouTube.com/theventureforward. I anything that she finds beneficial, I'm here to be of a help. So I hope she follows too. And Easy says, change your thinking and you change your life. Spot on. You are spot on there, Easy. Without question, you're spot on. Change your mind, change your thinking, and you change your life. That is true for many other things too. I'm going to show this slide from this graphic that I showed you the last time we talked about this 3 months ago. I mean, the BMR versus, TDE, and just doing a straight, side of the napkin calculation. In my case, I'm 44 and a half years old, 70 inches tall, weigh 166. My BMR would be 1,684 calories. So it's 60 for a man. It's 66 plus 6.2 times your weight in pounds, plus 12.7 times your height in inches, minus 6.76 times your age in years. So there's the math down there. But BMR is not the only number here. We have to think about how active I am. BMR is not total daily energy expenditure. And there are 5 different levels for it, right? We could talk about someone who has little to no exercise, sedentary. Well, that'd be a BMR times 1.2. If someone is light on the exercise, 1 to 3 times a week of like an hour, BMR times 1.375. If we're talking moderate exercise, so you're working out 3 to 5 times a week, I would say an hour each time, BMR times 1.55. Heavy exercise, working out 6 to 7 times a week, BMR times 1.725. And then intense exercise, daily, burning at least 750 calories a day, then the BMR can be multiplied by 1.9, because guess what? You're expending that sort of level of energy. So you need to keep that in mind. You take that number, you take 500 off of it, you're losing a pound per week. You take that number, you add 500, you're gaining a pound a week. So you have to realize what your TDEE is, and then make the sort of adjustment accordingly. A calorie is not a calorie. Macronutrients, 100 grams or more of protein in my case, 40 grams or less of sugar, 100 grams or less of net carbs. This was true when I was in the middle of the height of the weight loss. Now it's been a lot more relaxed. But it's fundamental because you think about it, a gram of carbohydrates is 4 calories, usually. A gram of protein is about 4 calories. A gram of fat is about 9 calories. So we look at the density of the food we eat, the way the food can be sustaining us. From one sort of perspective to another. And a very good point just popped up in the comments. I can't read your slides and you go really fast. Could you make some of these available as PDFs? Absolutely. I will put together a PDF of all these slides after this program. Let's see. So yeah, realize the density or the nutritional density of what you're eating is very important. And realize that a carbohydrate's going to have a different level of density than protein would and fat would. We've talked about this on the show before, that I've moved to a program of doing at least one day a week where I'm meatless. And I used to have a very heavy, meat-heavy diet. Like, it was every day, lots of meat. Lots of red meat, lots of this, lots of that. And I've incorporated a lot more days or a lot more meals where it's been plant-based, poultry, fish. So moving away from red meat, not to say that red meat's bad. I haven't cut out red meat entirely. As some of you know, I go to Fogo from every now and then. So like, I do eat red meat, but I just don't eat it as much as I used to. This has made a significant impact, not only from the weight loss, but from cholesterol level, from just watching my lipids and that sort of thing. So if you start attacking what you're eating from a caloric perspective, from a weight loss perspective, but then you start looking at the different things you can do to fix the sort of quality of food that you're eating, the quality of nutrition that you're getting, you start looking at stuff like that. Couple other notes. Soda, very rarely. So a lot of the beverages I drink is like carbonated water, sparkling water. I drink coffee. Some people would say you should watch the amount of coffee you drink, and I keep an eye on that. If I know when I've had too much coffee, for sure. As far as dairy sort of elements, I don't have half and half per se. I use almond milk. So if I have a bowl of cereal, like RX cereal or whatnot, I'm using almond milk. And I have vitamins and supplements every morning, religiously. I take something for basically a multivitamin, but then I take other things for, I had a seriously bad problem with gout 2-3 years ago, where I take now I take a tart cherry and celery root extract, which has helped considerably. And then if I strength train, then I make sure I have protein 30 to 60 minutes after the workout. So it's been very important as far as that. You'll go to any sort of gym or watch any sort of workout video, and they say 45 minutes. I would say 30 to 60. Especially if it was a hard workout, especially if you just did, say, an hour and a half of high intensity interval training. Yeah, something to keep in mind. Some comments before we continue. Easy says, Coke Zero, Lemonade Zero, Sprite Zero. If you're going to have any sort of zero, vitamin water zero is okay. But I think once you start getting very carbonated, you talk about soft drinks, it gets to be tricky. I will also say rule of thumb is look at the ingredient list of what you're drinking. If it's overly complicated and has too many elements in it, too many things you can't pronounce, don't drink it. If you're going to drink it, don't drink it often. Drink it occasionally. I do believe in moderation for sure. But be aware of what you're drinking, for sure. Jamie says, I do soda probably one time a year. Used to drink Dr. Pepper every day like 10 years ago. Can't do it now. Now it's a treat. Yeah. I used to drink Coke Zero like it was going out of style. I used to drink it by the sleeve. Like, I would have a sleeve of Coke Zero in my fridge, and that sleeve would be gone in a day and a half. No joke. So you shouldn't have that sort of addiction to anything. especially, things we've talked about on the show before, but soft drinks. You shouldn't drink that many soft drinks. And I realized how many soft drinks I used to drink. In college, I would have a 12 pack of Diet Pepsi, which would be gone in that same day, day and a half. I drink way too much soda. Sarah says she's been a vegetarian for decades and doesn't eat processed food. Very good diet, and she has high cholesterol. Sometimes it's hereditary. Sometimes it's based on other factors that may be environmental. I'm not a doctor. I'm not a nutritionist. All of that. But the best place to go to figure out what you could do about your high cholesterol is talk to your PCP or your, whoever doctors you have that you go to on a semi-regular basis. They would be the best place to go to try to figure out why the cholesterol is high. Now, if you have a lot of the good cholesterol, that's great. But if your total lipids are too high, I get what you're trying to say for sure. Easy says he drinks a liter a day. Oh boy. Sometimes two. Yeah. I wouldn't be remiss from that thought myself. The best thing you could do is just a little bit start imparting a little bit of club soda or carbonated water in it, maybe some regular water in it. Other thing I don't even think is in my slides is the amount of water you should drink in a given day, which is 1 ounce for every 2 pounds of your weight. So if you weigh 200 pounds, then you should be drinking 100 ounces of water. If you weigh 100 pounds, then you should be drinking 50 ounces of water. That's how it works. Take your weight, divide by 2, and that's the amount of water in ounces you should drink. Important caveat to that. If you drink a lot of caffeine, you could probably have to replenish some of that. So keep that in mind. But caffeine notwithstanding, take your body weight, divide it by 2, and that's how much water you should drink in ounces. Very funny. Easy says, sorry, John, I'm powerless over zero. My name is Aubrey. I'm a zeroholic. Oh, yeah. I used to... whether it was Coke Zero, Diet Pepsi, Diet Coke, some people in this audience will know I used to drink Tab like it was going out of style. They don't even make Tab anymore. Yeah, I used to be very much powerless over Coke Zero and Tab and Diet Pepsi and Diet Coke. Let's talk about exactly what I need to do now, given that I've hit my weight loss goal. So things are a bit different. We showed this slide back in November, but if I'm in road running mode, I should be taking a perspective of keeping still a good amount of protein, but a good amount of fat and a good amount of carbs, because the thing is, when you wake up in the morning and you need that sort of energy for a run, a long run, you definitely need to keep the carbs in mind. Not all carbs are evil. You can take carbs that are better for you. Sweet potatoes would be one of them. Oats would be another one of them. So you kind of keep that in the back of your mind. On race training weeks like this week and like next week and the weeks leading up to March 23rd, or March 27th rather, those fat calories can move to the carb bucket. So I can be a little more lenient on the amount of carb calories I eat because I'm running at least 4 to 5 miles a day. And on long running days, so there is one day scheduled for Sunday where I'm supposed to be running 10 miles. It's a long run, so I'm not going for half marathon pace, but like I am running considerable amount of distance. So the carbs have to be taken into consideration. If we're talking muscle building, well, then we're talking about a heavier number of calories because there's more calories there. So 3,787 calories. So that would be 947 in carbs, 1515 in protein, 1325 in fat. The point I'm trying to make is figure out what your sort of physical goal is, whether you're looking to run or you're looking to, build some muscle mass, and then treat your calories accordingly. I had the website on the bottom of this. I lost it. I will make sure it's in the final PDF of this deck. Some comments real quick. Easy says he prayed to his higher power to get him a large bench press, and the same day I walked my dog, and guess what I found in front of somebody's yard? Bench press, right? There you go. Easy struggles during breakfast, doesn't eat anything until 6 p.m. So you do some intermittent fasting, which is fine, but always be aware of what your body's telling you for sure. He also drinks his Slim Fast shakes in the morning or at lunchtime. So again, not that much of a heavy sort of caloric investment. And Easy says that he has a set of dumbbells and it will be starting on March 2nd to work out. Good for you, man. Good for you. Jamie says she's discovered today that one of her triggers is too much time to kill in between different things that she has to do. If she finishes class early and has to go to work, she feels tempted to get things that she should not be getting. Yeah. So food as a time killer was definitely a problem with me. And if you're thinking about, well, I got nothing to do, I'm going to go sit in line over at that fast food joint or whatnot. Realize that there are other things you could possibly do. You might be thirsty, so you may want to go for a water or a club soda. If it's morning, maybe a coffee. But realize the time of day. Remember where you are in place, but be mindful of what you're eating. Be mindful of what you're consuming. Jamie says, yes, food is a time killer. Bingo, baby. Yep. Certainly can be a time killer. Let's talk about exercise. So, as we talked about before, a workout or weight loss regime is not just a diet. It's not just what we're consuming. It is what we are doing physically. So before May of 21, I was doing 65 to 70% cardio, 30 to 35% HIIT. 7,000 steps a day, I think, was kind of the max. Now, on average, I'm doing 90 minutes of functional training, 2 hours of HIIT, 3 hours of spin a week, so 3 hours of cycling a week. Running about, at least jogging. I would say jog, run 5K 4 days a week, 5 miles 2 days a week. Given that I'm training for a half marathon in North Carolina, that will be in about less than 5 weeks. There's a lot more mileage to that now, so you could tell this slide's a bit old. Totaling anywhere I try to shoot for 12,000 to 20,000 steps per day. Now, the way we look at it, as we talked about on the 10,000 Steps show a few weeks back, a step, or basically 2,000 steps, is approximately a mile, plus or minus a small factor. So if you're looking at 10,000 steps per day, you're looking at about 5 miles. The goals are still the same. I'm looking to be at 11% body fat by the end of the year. Will I get there? Maybe. But it's not, I think because the weight has come off, it is a nice to have. Would love to get there. But for me, the point now is to maintain. And keeping an eye, weighing weekly, of where I am with weight, but also being very honest with myself and tracking everything. Still tracking everything. We'll be tracking for a long time, I guarantee you. But also relaxing a bit. So my friend down in Westchester has the term food Sabbath. It's something I've taken religiously. Pun intended almost. As long as I track everything, that's the most important thing. And if noticing that there's too much weight on the scale, then just doing the mechanics I have used to take that small weight off. And realize that sometimes we will gain weight because of bloat or because of saltiness or whatnot. Being fully cognizant of that, but keeping the weigh-in rather, to Fridays for me, or whatever day of the week you use for weigh-in. The walk, jog, runs. We're going to talk about this for a second. And there's the date on the top of the list. March 27th. I'll be running a half marathon in Cary, North Carolina. It is my first half marathon. And I am scared but ready. Being honest, right? We've been honest here. Scared but ready. I'm ready to do it, but I am scared because I think The longest I've gone up to now is about 10.5 miles. And a half marathon is 13.1. So it'll require me to find that extra energy to go that remaining 2.6 miles to get to that finish line. We have the Walk MS in media on April 23rd. So that gives me a chance for me to bring this back up real quickly. Walk MS, Saturday, April 23rd at 10 a.m. So again, it's what we call a shameless plug here, right? If you're looking, if you want to know more about the National MS Society, you can call 1-800-344-4867. Go see them at nationalmssociety.org. Again, nationalmssociety.org. Or you can donate money to my team, A Venture to a Cure's team, for this Walk MS at rebrand.ly/A Venture to a Cure. Again, rebrand.ly/A Venture to a Cure. And then after that walk, I have the Philly 10K in late August. And then the big race now, the Portland Marathon, October 2nd. So the run that I'm doing in Cary on March 27th is going to be basically a table set, basically a baseline generator for what I could potentially do in Portland, realizing full well that a marathon is double the length of a half marathon, right? So we're talking 26.2 miles now on a very different course that is a bit hilly. Not to say that Cary isn't hilly. Portland is very hilly. So taking that fully in mind. And then what would be a year of walk, run, jogs without a turkey trot at the end of the year? So there's a 5K turkey trot in Chester County on Thanksgiving Day. And I'll be doing it that morning on November 24th. The Chester County Turkey Trot. So there's the 5. Cary Half Marathon, the Walk MS, the Philly 10K, the Portland Marathon, and the Chester County Turkey Trot. So along the way, there is a 5K, a 10K, a half, and a whole. That's what I'm achieving to do. And then also a walk for charity. All of that. Go back to Maine for a second. This is the sort of thing where I would have never imagined to do any of that 3 years ago. And I'm doing it now. I'm doing it. I feel fitter every time I go to the gym. I feel healthier each and every day. There are days that are not golden for sure, but I'm working through this. And I actually am visualizing getting all of that done and then some. And then having the next big ideas, like what can I do in 23 after getting and having these sort of major victories in 22, after the victories that I've had in 19, 20, and 21. I had this slide back in November. I want to bring it up again. These are adages that I hold on to, especially when it comes to the weight loss. Things I kept in mind, 6 things. That either this changes or it's the end, right? I've referred to it as there is no alternative. But this changes or it's the end. Knowing that I was that weight for the 3rd time in my life, I have no choice. I have to lose this weight. Enough is enough is another thing I've gravitated to. Is why was I doing those horrible things to myself? Enough is enough. Another thing to think about. You have not because you've asked not. I want to be healthier. Did I actually ask for that though? And did I work to do that? If you didn't do that, or you're not asking for it, then you're not going to have it more times than not. You have not because you asked not. The next thing is something I said already on this episode. 1 day at a time, 1 step at a time, 1 foot in front of the other. Because that's how we have to dissect this. Just as we've dissected everything else we've battled. Whether it is obesity, or alcoholism, or compulsive gambling. 1 day at a time, 1 step at a time, 1 foot in front of the other. And then lastly, every moment's a gift. Every moment is indeed a gift. Even the moments where I was at 480, I wouldn't realize that there is things I have to do now without the gift of going through that. Every moment's a gift. The present is exactly that. It is a gift. It is a present. We don't dwell upon the past. We learn from it. And the future is no guarantee. But this moment, this very moment, is a gift. Some comments. Jamie says, JV, you will kick ass. Thank you. Thank you very much. I appreciate that. Sarah says to Jamie, I stopped eating meat the day I read the Meat Cutters Trade Journal. Stopped eating seafood while having dinner with Sylvia Earle. Listening to her, I couldn't do it anymore. So there's definitely abuses in meat processing and seafood processing for sure. So that's, it's something that you've taken as something you're doing, and your health is definitely benefiting for it. So it's awesome. Sarah says, you really are amazing, JV. You have a tremendous strong will. I try. Like I said before, not every day is perfect, but I keep on keeping on, one day at a time. Thank you, Sarah. I appreciate that. Jamie says to Sarah, I commend you. I do too. I absolutely commend you, Sarah. What are some of the main food staples, if you don't mind me asking? And Sarah says she eats eggs and dairy and tons of vegetables, grains, and beans. A very, very healthy diet. It's part of this too. I could talk about the mechanics of what works for me. I will also say this. That sort of mechanics of what I talked about on this program and what I've talked about in a couple seasons that I've been doing the show may not be good for everybody. And the best thing you can do is contact your doctor, your PCP, your nutritionist, your dietitian to get their guidance. Working with a doctor, working with a nutritionist is the best thing you could possibly do. And Jamie says, yes, diet is so important. I absolutely agree. Diet is very important. But activity is also very important too. It is a combined picture. And then also taking care of this. Therapy, counseling, journaling, meditation, everything works together here. So, and Sarah says no processed food. She eats mostly fresh food that she cooks herself. That's the best thing you could do. Many people call it the 5 ingredients or less sort of routine. If you can tell me exactly what's in it and it doesn't have 19-letter words, you're doing the best thing you possibly can. Also, if you do get your meat, if you do get your fish, understanding where it's being raised from, understanding where it's being farmed from. Farm to table is very much an important thing. It's not only a marketing scheme for local restaurants. Farm to table is one of the better things you can do. Sarah, just like myself, is a foodie. That's why I like Sarah so much. There's a heart. Jamie says, thanks, Sarah. I love vegetables. I love beans too, but I tend to get upset stomach easy with a lot of food. It can be tricky sometimes. And Jamie as well loves to eat. We're all foodies. That's another reason why I have a lot of friends in this group, both the live streamers and the recovery groups. And Sarah with the quote, eat food, not too much, mostly green. Michael Pollan. Yeah. I will also say moderation. Moderation's key. Don't have to always comply to something 24/7, 365. But moderation is the most important thing you could do, especially as a foodie. If you're a foodie like me, if you're a foodie like Sarah, if you're a foodie like Jamie, you like different kinds of food, so moderation. Your metabolism and other internal systems would appreciate that variety as well. And then last but certainly not least, and then we start previewing the next episode, is this. Language of letting go for February 23rd. And the passage for February 23rd is strength. We don't always have to be strong. Sometimes our strength is expressed in being vulnerable. Sometimes we need to fall apart to regroup and stay on track. We all have days when we cannot push any harder, cannot hold back self-doubt, cannot stop focusing on fear, cannot be strong. There are days when we cannot focus on being responsible. Occasionally, we don't want to get out of our pajamas. Sometimes we cry in front of people. We expose our tiredness, irritability, or anger. Those days are okay. They are just okay. Part of taking care of ourselves means we give ourselves permission to fall apart when we need to. We do not have to be perpetual towers of strength. We are strong. We have proven that. Our strength will continue if we allow ourselves the courage to feel scared, weak, and vulnerable when we need to experience those feelings. Today, God, help me to know that it is okay to allow myself to be human. Help me not to feel guilty or punish myself when I need to fall apart. And that's tomorrow's language of letting go, the language of letting go for February 23rd. Some comments. Sarah says food combining can be tricky. Certain foods really don't digest well in combination. Very much true. And Jamie says, I never thought of food combos. I just thought it was one certain food. I'm going to have to look into that. Thank you. Yeah. The combination of things that we put together, whether in a meal, whether in a recipe rather, or together as part of a meal, that's what I tried to say, is important. So yeah, the combination of foods have to be a bit resonant in your mind as you're making meals and making food choices for sure. And then let's talk about Thursday. On the next venture, help when we needed it the most. I'm going to talk about the nervous breakdown I had in Raleigh back in 2019. And the two people that came into this life to put this train back on the tracks. It is a conversation and a story I wanted to talk to for a very long time. And we're doing that Thursday night at 8 o'clock Eastern, 5 o'clock Pacific. Help when we needed it the most. Hope you're here for that for sure. And then after Thursday night, we will have VF Talks on Friday night at 6:30 Eastern, 3:30 Pacific with Matt Haas, Paul Burke, and all of you having a conversation about anything and everything as we normally do on Fridays. And honestly, the reason why Fridays are all awesome outside of the fact that, I don't know, it's Friday. It's Friday and there's VF Talks. I enjoy that a lot. As much as I enjoy all of you and I appreciate you a great deal. But until next time, I'm going to say the same thing I say at the end of every venture forward, MVF Talks. Stay safe, stay sane, stay strong, stay sober. You're worth it. We'll see you Thursday night at 8 Eastern, 5 Pacific, for the next episode of the Venture Forward, when we talk about help when we needed it the most. Have a wonderful night. I love you. Fly be free.